I am here with a story from our Miracles Do Happen book. These are true short stories that people send in. I got somebody messaging me and they're like, just messaged me a second ago and I was going to message them back when I got this done, but they're like, okay, like they can't wait 5 seconds. Jeez. I've been talking to them for half an hour. It's my mom's ex-husband. Okay. The story tonight is The Brilliant White Light by Susan M. Watkins. We're still in the section of the book. Where we're talking about miracles that happen with babies. I got paint all over me. I'm sorry. I've been painting rocks. Alright, let's get this started. There was never a time I didn't want to be a mother. Even my childhood bed revealed my maternal instincts as dolls lined the perimeter, each lovingly cherished. So after I married, I learned I was realizing my dreams with the joyous news that a baby was coming. My little angel was growing, and the arrival of summer was with my 3rd trimester. My final trimester was peaceful, and I felt cocooned in my father's care. I waited for the calendar pages to turn, secure in knowing he oversaw my baby's welfare, until the night intense pain woke me. The first labor pang was so sharp, I fell out of bed. As I tried to stand, the second one struck. Doubling over, I nearly fell again. Running for the bathroom, I emptied my stomach as the 3rd pang arrived. I knew something was wrong, as these weren't mild contractions, and I wasn't due for 3 weeks. Each contraction directed me to get to the hospital immediately, but first I called a mighty prayer warrior, my mother. When I arrived at the ER, nurses assured me it was impossible to be in active labor this soon with my first child. They don't always know. But my labor pains continued every 3 minutes, and my body readied itself to give birth. My daughter was born moments after the doctor's arrival. What now, nurse? When the nurse brought her close to my face for initial instructions, my daughter suddenly turned from purple to gray. Oh, that's not good. Causing instant pandemonium. I didn't even have the chance to hold or kiss my baby before the attending nurse dashed from the room with her. What are they doing up there? You hear that banging? It's the upstairs neighbors. They're always so noisy. I was awash with fear as the staff ran in and out, yelling updates at my doctor. Another physician arrived to attend to me while my obstetrician ran to help my daughter. Though I begged for information about my baby, nothing was revealed. I fainted. Ooh, she's probably losing blood. Once revived, I pressed for answers, insisting that I see my child. I was told they were stabilizing her. Stabilizing her? I couldn't imagine what had happened to my cherub, and I launched into desperate prayer. I called Mom again to tell her I delivered a daughter, but that she was fighting for her life. Mom promised to come quickly, as my husband had left for work and would not return until later that night. Unsteady from weakness, I convinced a nurse to take me to my daughter. I can't believe they were treating her this way. This must be, back years ago. Because that's awful the way they're treating the mother. Let's see. Unsteady from weakness, I convinced a nurse to take me to my daughter. The nurses helped me into a wheelchair and took me to the neonatal intensive care unit. Looking through several glass walls, I saw an incubator at the far end protecting my precious daughter. I couldn't see the details of her face, but I realized her whole body was gray and she barely moved. They explained that she was having difficulty breathing. This happens sometimes, they said, trying unsuccessfully to reassure me. I turned to leave when I saw a nurse draw my daughter's blood. They ran abruptly out of sight. The nursery lights flickered on as the doctor and nurses suddenly surrounded my child. I asked a flurry of questions, but my panic returned as the attendant quickly wheeled me to my room, dodging my questions. I knew the staff was going to do all they could, but I also knew this was more serious than they were telling me. Helplessness engulfed me, so I focused all my attention on God. Then my exhausted mind drifted into long overdue sleep. I woke to my mother's loving touch. I poured my heart out. I saw the concern flash across her face. Since I had seen my mom in action for years and had witnessed her prayers moving mountains for her children and grandchildren, I knew that if anyone could draw upon God's power, she could. She told me to go back to sleep, that she was going to meet her granddaughter. I explained that she couldn't go into the nursery, but she assured me that the Lord would arrange things. When Mom approached the NICU, she was promptly turned away. The third time she tried, a different nurse disclosed the severity of the situation. My baby couldn't breathe well and couldn't oxygenate her vital organs, which placed her entire system in crisis. She was deteriorating. Well, why wouldn't they let them in there with the baby then? Her liver was malfunctioning and couldn't filter out toxins. This triggered her bilirubin levels to escalate into a dangerous zone that could cause severe brain damage and eventual death. They could not help her breathing much, and because of her current bilirubin count, they had no hope that she'd be normal, if she survived. Her prognosis was poor. She could possibly be discharged if her breathing eventually improved, but the brain damage would force end-of-life institutionalization. Not everybody would do that. My daughter's gray skin had begun to show yellow tones. That's bad liver, signaling the serious decline of her liver function. The doctor had transferred care to a specialist who expected her to die in a few days. Mom insisted on going into the nursery to lay her hands on her grandchild and pray for a miracle. I don't know why they would not let her in there. The nurse finally allowed Mom to take 2 minutes to pray for the charge nurse before the charge nurse returned. How could they keep them away from their baby? And they're not even in there doing anything, trying to work. If the baby was going to die, why not let the family in there to be with the baby? That's upsetting. The nurse helped my mother dress in sterile coverings and stood guard while Mom went to join a waiting God. Knowing she couldn't open the incubator to touch her dying grandchild, Mom laid her hands on top of it and petitioned Most Holy God. My gray and yellow daughter suddenly turned her tiny head and looked directly at her Nana while struggling to breathe. Mom noticed she already looked like a corpse. But as my mother called down heaven into that 7-pound body, brilliant light suddenly appeared from beneath Mom's hands and bathed my baby's dying body. Mom continued praying for my baby's healing down to the molecular level. As her granddaughter was enveloped in God's visible power, she suddenly began to move normally. The light eventually dissipated and the baby was rosy pink. My grandmother and granddaughter again looked into each other's eyes. Mom told her she was healed. Mom thanked the nurse, exited the NICU, and pulled off her paper attire just as the charge nurse came around the corner. Seeing the dramatic change in my firstborn's condition, the doctors had the questions now. Mom returned to my room and continued praying for the baby and me. A smiling nurse soon woke me holding a miraculously healed daughter. The baby I had longed for my entire life was gently placed in my arms. When Mom described God's light entering my helpless infant, I was overwhelmed with the Lord's loving kindness. With every disturbing diagnosis dismissed, we were both discharged the next morning. The Lord longs to be gracious to us, and He delights in opening His hands to release glory into the lives of His redeemed children. Sometimes we just have to invite Him.